If you're a founder, you know this feeling. It's that first great mountain you have to climb, getting your first 1,000 customers. But what if I told you that the real path to get there means doing things that feel completely wrong, totally unsustainable? Well, let's get into it. So, how does it actually happen? We all have this image in our heads of a big viral launch, right? But the truth? It's usually a lot messier, way more manual, and surprisingly personal. This slide just lays it all out, the core misunderstanding. The myth is this idea of an explosive launch where users just magically find your great product. But the reality is, it's a grind. It's a laborious, manual push where the founders themselves have to go out and get every single one of those first users. The big secret isn't about scalability from day one. Nope. It's about doing the hard things that feel completely unsustainable. To really unpack this, we're going to follow a simple playbook. First, we'll cover the unscalable secret itself. Then, we'll talk about how to build up some pre-launch momentum, how to execute a focused launch, and finally, how you find your path to scale using a really powerful, simple framework. So let's start with the big idea. This comes from Y Combinator's Paul Graham, and honestly, it completely flips the script on how we think startups begin. He calls it the hand crank. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? Startups don't just achieve liftoff on their own. They are pushed and shoved and literally willed into motion by their founders. It's all about that initial, relentless effort. And that hand crank is just the perfect metaphor. Before we had electric starters, you had to physically get out and crank a car's engine to get it to turn over. It was hard, manual work, totally separate from actually driving. But once that engine was running, it could keep going on its own. Getting your first customers is that hand crank. So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, take Stripe. The founders didn't just send a sign-up link. They would literally take a potential user's laptop and install the software for them right then and there. Or Airbnb. The founders went door to door in New York, not just to sign up hosts, but to take professional photos of their apartments to make the listings look better. And Wufoo sent a handwritten thank you note to every single new user. None of this scales, of course, but what it does is create an unbelievably great first experience. Okay, so you're ready to do the unscalable work, but where do you even find those first people? Well, a lot of the time, this whole process starts before your product is even done. It starts with building momentum, and one of the absolute best tools for that is a waitlist. And if you want proof that a waitlist is more than just a simple email form, look at this. Robinhood, the trading app, had 1 million people, 1 million, lined up, just eager to use their product before it was even available. They spent almost nothing on user acquisition. That's the incredible power of building anticipation. How in the world did they do that? It's all about psychology. First up, scarcity. When you make something not immediately available, you automatically increase how much people want it. Second, anticipation. You're not just making them wait, you're building excitement with every little update. And finally, social proof. I mean, when someone sees that thousands of other people have already signed up, that fear of missing out, FOMO, kicks in hard, and they're way more likely to join in. Okay, so a waitlist builds momentum. Got it. But what about the launch itself? You need to forget this idea of a massive press-fueled explosion. Instead, think of it as a focused, super high-effort event. And for this, let's look at a case study with Product Hunt. This is so important to understand. A platform like Product Hunt is a megaphone, not a spark. It takes all that excitement you've already built, through all your unscalable efforts in your waitlist, and it just blasts it out to a huge audience of early adopters. It can't create momentum from nothing. So if you want to use that megaphone effectively, you need a checklist before you launch. First, your goal isn't just upvotes, it's getting email addresses from people who are genuinely interested. Second, you really need a primed audience of at least 400 people who are ready to support you on launch day. And third, quality absolutely beats quantity. A few thoughtful comments from established, respected community members are worth so much more than 100 upvotes from brand new accounts. And the payoff for all this focused, unscalable work? A #1 product on launch day can see over 10,000 unique, highly qualified visitors in a single day. That's how you turn all that manual effort into a massive wave of new users. All right, you've hand-cranked the engine, you've built some real initial momentum. Now, it's time to start thinking about the future. How do you actually transition from these one-off efforts to something that's repeatable and sustainable? Let's take a look at the broader marketing landscape. So it's really important to get this. There are basically two types of marketing channels. You've got your non-scalable ones, like content and community marketing that need constant manual effort. These are perfect for getting your first customers. And then you have scalable channels, like SEO or virality. Now, these are harder to get going, but once they work, they can grow without you having to constantly put in more work. They become the long-term engine for your business. And you can see the major options laid out right here. On the scalable side, you've got things like SEO and paid ads. On the non-scalable side, you'll see community and content marketing. The whole strategy is to start with those non-scalable channels to get that first bit of traction, and then you strategically invest in the scalable ones for long-term growth. But with so many options, how do you possibly choose where to start? And this brings us to the most practical question of all. With limited time, limited money, how do you decide where to focus your energy? Well, the answer is a beautifully simple prioritization system called the ICE framework. The ICE framework is a super simple system used by all kinds of startups, even huge ones like Facebook and Uber, to prioritize their growth ideas. It's an acronym for 3 words: impact, confidence, and ease. Here's exactly how it works. First, you just brainstorm and list out all your marketing ideas. Then, for each idea, you score it from 1 to 5 on 3 simple questions. What's the potential impact if this actually works? How confident are you that it will work? And how easy is it to do? Then you just average those 3 scores. The ideas with the highest numbers, those are your top priorities. It's a fast, super effective way to turn a messy list of ideas into a clear action plan. And that's really the whole progression. The journey to your first 1,000 customers isn't just one big launch. You start with that laborious, unscannable effort to create a core of incredibly happy users. You channel that energy into pre-launch momentum, and then you use a smart framework like ICE to find and build the repeatable, scalable channels that will carry you to 10,000, 100,000, and beyond. Which leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question. It's easy to talk about this stuff, but the founders of Stripe and Airbnb and every other successful startup, they got their hands dirty. So what unscalable, laborious, high-effort thing will you do today to get just one step closer to your next customer?